Hello and welcome. This is Don Trenton. I'm working on the Microsoft Azure team, writing content and demos for various features. And in this demo, I'd like to walk through a demo tutorial where we use the Azure Batch SDK for .NET to run parallel file processing. This app will process video files. It will take MP4 video files and convert them to MP3 audio files. Before we dive into the demo, I'd like to take a moment and explain how Batch works. Batch is a cloud service that allows you to scale out any compute task that you might have from your application, and it's illustrated in this diagram. So what the Batch service looks like this. Within Azure, Batch needs a storage account, and within the storage account, it typically has separate containers. In this case, it will have an input, output, and application container. The input will hold the input files, output will hold the output files, and application will hold any application data that you want to upload. Batch also sets up a pool of compute nodes. Each compute node is a virtual machine, and those compute nodes will run in parallel and run your application. Batch also creates what's known as a job, and the job manages the tasks assigned to each compute node. This is in fact your whatever computation that your application is doing. In this case, it's FFmpeg, a video file converter, and it breaks up that processing job into separate tasks. Each task goes to a separate compute node, and this is done automatically for you by the Batch service. So what this demo app is going to do is upload a number of MP4 files to Azure storage. They will go into the input container. They will be transferred to the Azure Batch job, which will then set up a number of tasks. And what we're going to see is that each file, there's 5 files, are going to be assigned each one to 5 virtual machines. And you'll see the demo create the tasks, create the compute nodes, activate those compute nodes, run the task, and then when they're complete, they will be then uploaded back to the storage account into the output container, and then they'll be downloaded back to the client machine. And then they'll be downloaded back to the client computer. And so that's an overview of how this demo works. Let's take a moment and go to the documentation for this tutorial so you know where to find it. So starting at the Microsoft Azure homepage, click Documentation, and then Products, and then you'll find the Batch service. And on the Batch landing page, you'll see that we've reorganized the documentation somewhat, and this is actually a new thing that we've done where we've presented not only in-depth conceptual documentation, but we have these 5-minute quick starts and step-by-step tutorials. And this is very useful because sometimes you just want a very quick startup. These are meant to run 5 minutes or so. Sometimes they run less, sometimes more, and they come in different languages. You can run them on the command line or in Portal. But what we're going to do today is we're going to run a tutorial, and the tutorials they're in-depth, and they are applications that do something significant. In addition to that, there are other samples on that are available that you can peruse, as well as full reference documentation. So let's get to the tutorial. This is parallel file processing with .NET SDK, meaning we're going to build a C# application that will work with the Azure Cloud Service. All right, let's first take a look at the prerequisites. You'll need Visual Studio, and you'll need a Batch account. Now we have the Azure portal running here, and we'll set up the batch account and storage account in just a moment. And then the third thing that you need is you'll need to download FFmpeg, and that will be the application for this tutorial. You'll want to make sure that you have this particular version, the 64-bit version of FFmpeg version 3.4. Just click this link and go to the product page, download it, and you should be all set. Now I've already downloaded this on my machine. What you'll see is in downloads you'll have a zip file, and that zip file will be uploaded directly to the batch service. We'll get to that later. Now we can start setting up the accounts that we need right here in Azure Portal. Now before we create the batch account, we'll need a resource group and a storage account. It's best to start with the resource group. You can create them on the fly when you create the batch account, but this is a little more organized. Now we'll go to Azure Portal to set up the batch account, the storage account, and we'll also need a resource group to contain those accounts. It's best to create the resource group first. We'll just call this batch test. Let's name the resource group batch test group. Select a subscription, then a location, and click Create. Sometimes you need to refresh after creating the group so that you can see it. The latency is a minute or two. All right, so now the next thing we want to create is a storage account. Now in storage accounts, click Add. And we'll want to create a general storage account because batch accounts require a general purpose account. For a resource group, we can select what we just created, batch test group 0219. So we've named the storage account general storage 0219, specified that it is a general purpose v1 storage account, and put it in batch test group 0219, which we just created. Click Create. Azure will spin up that storage account for you. And now we're ready to create the batch account. So we go to, at the very bottom of the left-hand menu is batch accounts. Click Add. We'll put in the account name. It's batch account 0219. And we're going to put it in our resource group and select the storage account that we just created. There it is. Select that. All right. And make sure that pool allocation mode is batch service. That's the preferred, in fact, it may be required mode. Click Create. Batch accounts require a few minutes to spin up, and they need to deploy to the resource group. It's probably there now. So now we have our batch account with a storage account, and it's in a resource group. So let's go to the resource group, take a look at the resources we just created. Here they are. We have a storage account and a batch account. So now that we've created the resources in Azure Portal, we're ready to go ahead with the tutorial. Actually, there's one more thing we should do, which is to upload the application to the batch account. And what we're going to do is we're going to upload the application as what's called an application package. I'll show you how to do that. Click on your batch account here. All right, and as you remember, we downloaded FFmpeg, the installation zip, to downloads. So we have it on the local drive. In the batch account, click Applications, and then we're going to add an application. Name it FFmpeg version 3.4, and we select the zip right here under Application Package. And there's a status bar underneath that, and I'll show you the upload progress. This can take a little time. It's almost finished uploading, and while we're waiting for that to finish, let's fire up Visual Studio. All right. Because we're going to need Visual Studio in a minute. All right, so the application uploaded. It's there as an application package for this batch account. We're ready to go. All right, so back to the tutorial. The next thing we want to do is download and run the sample. So let's click this link, and this takes us to GitHub. In GitHub, this is the repo for the sample tutorial. Click clone or download, and in this case, we're going to download the zip. When you click that, you'll get a zip file in the downloads. Looks like this. We'll want to extract all. And we copy that to some location on your drive where Visual Studio can find it. So let's copy that. And we will open it in Visual Studio. There it is. You'll want to click on the solution file, open it. And open program.cs. Now in this C# code, we're going to see a section for credentials. Let's take a look at this. So now we're in the C# code. Scroll down a little bit and we'll see a section for credentials. These are the batch account credentials and storage account credentials that we're going to get from the portal. So let's go back to Azure Portal. And first of all, in the batch account, click Keys, and all the information we need should be there. So we can copy the name. Then we want the key. That's the primary access key. The batch account URL. Then for our storage account, go to Storage Accounts, Storage 0219. Again, click Access Keys, copy the name, and the account key. And that's the information that this application needs. A couple of other items to look at is that the pool and job names are already defined for you. The pool is called WinFFmpeg pool, and the job is called WinFFmpeg job. The pool size is specified as standard A1 V2 virtual machine. And we're going to create 5 compute nodes. One thing to look at is that these are low priority VMs. So these are VMs that they can be co-opted at any given time by higher priority VMs, but by using low priority VMs, you save a lot of money. They're very low cost. And this is a good feature to use in Azure, especially if your application is not time sensitive. So now that we've filled in these credentials, we're ready to build and run the application. So let's save all. Let's right click on the solution and run build solution. And what build should resolve any of these conflicts. If there's any conflicts remaining after build, you would want to run the NuGet package manager and update your packages. But in this case, it looks like they've all resolved and we're ready to go. To run it, click debug, start debugging. This is a console app, so it throws up a console with status for the application. And as you can see, it's already created an input and output containers. We can go to Azure Portal and take a look at that. In our storage account, click blobs. There they are. And there won't be anything in output yet, but in input there should be something. Let's see if there are two files here, and let's see if that corresponds to what the application is doing now. Okay, so the application says that it's uploading file number 5, and this shows 4 files so far. They're under 10 megabytes each, so it doesn't take really all that long to upload. And they're all uploaded. Also note that in the application container, this is where you're going to find your FFmpeg package. All right, so now it's time, if we look at the console, that it says that it's creating the pool in the job. Since there's a bit of latency here, we have time to go to the batch account in Portal and take a look at the status of the pool and the jobs. Let's look and see if the jobs, okay, the job is created and there should be 5 tasks within that job, task 0 through 4. And the status state is active for each one. That's good. Now we'll take a look at the pool. We have a batch pool. You can see it's spinning up from 0 to 5 nodes, and nothing is showing yet. There is some latency here, and this is the step that really takes the longest with this tutorial app. It's still creating the pool. And you see here that the allocation state was resizing. Now it's steady at 5 low priority nodes. And here they are. They're color coded, and the keys over here, it's 5, are starting up. Pretty soon we'll see them turn color. You should see several of them turn to green for running. And if you switch back to Visual Studio, you'll see that there's a timer here. We've gone almost 4 minutes in this app. The console app will also keep track of the total time. When it completes, it'll know how much time it actually took to complete the tasks. Okay, so now we're at 9 minutes and the compute nodes suddenly turn green. We had 5 running, now there are 4 running with 1 idle. So it looks like they've gotten around to running the tasks, and voila. It only took really a matter of 10-15 seconds for them to run the tasks. And if we go back to the console, it just completed. So at the end of this app, it's going to prompt you. It deletes the input container, and it's going to prompt you whether you want to delete the job and the pool. So in this case, you can do it right here in the console, but I'm not going to do that because I may want to look at them later. Sample complete, and that ran 9 minutes and 30 seconds, thereabouts. And also you note in the console that it ran about 9 minutes, 30 seconds, just under 10 minutes. Just note that if you don't delete the pool and the job in the console, you'll want to go back to the Azure portal, like right here, and delete them manually because they can cost you money. Now you do that by clicking delete here. Actually, before we do that, what I wanted to do was look at the storage account, and that we had something in the output container. And there are 5 MP3 files as expected. So now that we've verified that, if we want to delete our resources, an easy way to do that is just go to the resource group. There's our batch test group. Let's go there. And we just delete this resource group. It has the batch account and the storage account. Confirm, click delete. And Azure will delete that resource for you. You won't be charged anymore for it. And that wraps up the walkthrough of the batch parallel processing tutorial sample.